Welcome to another episode of Leading Through with Billy Island. I get the privilege and honor of hosting this show, and I'm excited once again about my next interview. This next interview, he's a very dear friend of mine. Been knowing him from right at 9 years. The man is a phenomenal teacher, and I just want to interview him about leadership. I want you to have a recording of this so you can tap into his leadership thoughts, his creativity. And so I want to welcome to the show, Timothy Jones. How you doing today, man?
Man, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's really a pleasure actually to have you. Let me ask you, man, we're talking about leadership. This is what the podcast is always about, leadership. But if you can give us a little backdrop about who you are, where you come from, and how you even got introduced to the leadership world.
Okay, so my name is Timothy Jones. I grew up here in Dallas. Actually, I grew up in an area called Oak Cliff, pretty rough neighborhood. I'm 34 years old. I've been married now for about 4 years.
Okay.
And we got a blended family. We got 6 kids total together, so that's a pretty heavy work within itself.
That's leadership within itself. Woo!
I believe I got introduced to leadership through working in like warehouses, like having to lead like fabrication, us having to have a certain amount of things done at a particular time. Like there cannot be no slacking off, otherwise we're gonna hear the supervisor or the floor supervisor telling us, hey man, we need to pick up the pace, we need to get things done. And dealing with a lot of people from different backgrounds, everybody's work ethic was different. So it's having to find creative ways to compel people to get involved and actually get the work done. So that's where I was kind of first introduced to leading, because I come not from a very high working background, but just being in the warehouse district and having to lead people that didn't really have a work background to compel them to get a particular thing done was pretty interesting.
Wow, that's so good. I'm reminded of President Roosevelt. He said, leadership is getting people to do things they don't want to do, and they like it. And they like it. And so that sounds like, in the business sec, you had an opportunity to do that, to get people to do something they probably didn't want to do.
Man.
And good leadership always have people liking it once they're actually in it. So leadership, was introduced to you in the corporate America, in the business world. And so today, where you find yourself at in life is a place that's unique. Mm-hmm. You say you're married, that's leadership. Yeah. Been married 4 years, you said? 4
years, yes, sir.
And you have a blended family with 6 kiddos.
Yes, sir. 6
wow.
kids.
Yeah. I mean, I salute you right there. That's leadership at its finest. And then blending a family together. God bless you for that. And so that's where you're at right now. But do you want to add something else as far as like for our audience, like another area that you lead and you're learning to lead and you're getting principles of leadership through this avenue in your life?
Yeah, well, recently here for the last, I believe, about 5 or 6 years, I've had an opportunity. I got licensed to be a minister. I'm a pastor in our church, and I have an opportunity also to work with recovering addicts at our recovery center.
My God,
connected to our church. So, is in the aspect of recovery is like helping people to realize there's more in their life, because most people come from terrible backgrounds, terrible upbringings, like poverty-stricken mindset. So it's having them to understand that there's more than just what they've have witnessed or been a part of for the majority of their lives. And then the aspect of the church, it's leading individuals that may have they have their own families, they have their own kids, they have their own companies, but also just leading them in different aspects of their lives, like different situations such as deaths. There's people that have marital conflicts, things like that. So in 2 different aspects, man, I've learned really how to be patient with people, how to be situational, because everybody is different. Like you cannot, or you can, but it would be best not to apply the same principles to everyone, because everybody's situation is unique. So you gotta know the individual that you're dealing with, and it's right in the moment. You gotta make the adjustment. It may be a situation where you meant to correct this individual, but you see that they're already vulnerable, so you kind of, go towards an encouraging factor, and and later on maybe get back to the initial thing that you wanted to go over with that person. So in the aspect of our recovery center is leading people to see that there's more than drug addiction, alcoholism, or hopelessness. And in the aspect of the church is leading people through different situations that they deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Wow. Sounds like a big contrast. One is giving hope to give people an understanding that there's more in their life, and that in this context, God is able to do exceedingly abundantly more than they could imagine. And then on the other aspect is helping people navigate through tense times in their life. And man, God bless you for that. It sounds like you got your hands full in those areas. And what is one of the biggest things you've learned in these two aspects in these two arenas where you lead people out of recovery, and then you also lead people through tense times and devastating times, and through ups as well, celebrating their life, celebratory seasons in their life. What is one of the big takeaways that you could grab hold of and say, this is something that I can utilize in both areas of leading these different groups?
I would say the biggest principle is being consistent, being a person that people can rely on, being someone that people know without a shadow of a doubt that you're going to show up and be there. And I think that's something that's missing in a lot of people's lives, is someone that's consistent, that they can depend on. Sometimes you have people that start at consistent, but they don't always follow through. So I think just being thorough and being consistent, I would say, are one of the biggest principles that I've took is being consistent. Consistent and productive, for sure.
That's so good. Being truly consistent many times lead to productivity, and I've heard that from so many different leaders. That's one of my go-tos, is being consistent, following through. That's so beautiful, so beautiful. So in marriage, right? You've been married 4 years. What is one of the things that really you hold on to when it comes to leading the opposite sex, leading your spouse, and how do you do that?
Well, one is having realistic expectations, really not having high expectations or low expectations. I think really not having no expectations at all. And the reason why I say that is because you can come in with too high of an expectation and then the person don't meet it, and then you get shook up by it, or you have low expectations and it's like, why would you think low of someone like that? So I think just learning the individual. I think when leading people, I think the best thing to do is observe and learn them as a person, know their character, and different situations find out how to lead them, because the more you know them, you will be able to lead them accordingly, whereas they'll understand it and be able to even embrace what you're trying to get them to do.
Wow. You know what? I've never really heard marriage described like that. It sounds like it's some work, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like it's some work. So for people out there that are looking to get married and they just want to, have a great time all day, which although marriage is amazing, I've been married for 13 years now, marriage is amazing, but it is some work. So it sounds like you need to learn people in order to lead people.
Yeah, I would say that's the biggest key, because if you don't know a person, you wouldn't know how to determine how you're going to help them to grow. So you got to be observative. You got to look at character. And that just comes with you being around a person, especially in marriage. I mean, y'all share each other's space. Y'all together most of the time, and so, or if you're in marriage, you're supposed to still be dating. So if y'all are still dating one another, of course, there's going to be moments where y'all vulnerable with one another and you're sharing each other's hearts. And so that's how you learn about this particular individual that you're sharing life with. And then if there's something that you need to lead them through, well, of course, you know their character, so you know how, or you determine the initial way of how to lead them through without it coming off offensive or without them being on the defense. Like you come at it with a good posture in order to lead them well.
Yeah, because one is authoritative and the next one is leadership. Authoritative view is, I'm just going to come and tell you what to do. Who cares whether you do it or not? I told you what I needed to tell you. Right. And leading is, okay, my goal is to get you to a desired destination. And so you apply that in your marriage, and that's through getting to know your person, your spouse, because leaders are learners.
Sure.
So you're definitely learning your spouse. You're getting to know her likes, her dislikes. How about with children, especially with blended family? You got 3 children that are biologically yours, and 3 children, obviously they're yours. You're their father, but you know they're like bonus. You got them by way of marriage. How is leading through that? What have you learned from that, and how have you navigated through that as a leader?
What I've learned in a blended family is like we're dealing with like my wife's kids. First, understanding their upbringing, knowing like the background of where they come from and how they've been raised so far. But then another big thing that I've learned is winning them over. Were they able to trust you? Were they able to listen to what you have to say? Because you can't just be authoritative and say, okay, I'm your father now, you got to listen to me. And it's like, who the heck you think you are? Like,
exactly.
And you kind of put them in a position where they put up walls and they don't want to even deal with you. So I think spending time, getting to know them, knowing their likes and dislikes. So even if you have to be a disciplinary or have to correct a certain characteristic, you know them in such a way where it's attractive, and you don't won them over, where it's not all law, they able to receive the love. So even in the law, they receive love too. Like when you have to discipline them, they know it's being done out of love.
Right.
Other than you just coming in, bringing the hammer down, and they don't feel love at all. Yes, it's something that needs to be done, but also there's another aspect where they need to know that they're loved too. So I think understanding the children, their background, how they've been raised up, and then winning them over, and then having a balance of love and also the correction and instruction also.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by the learning people's backgrounds and their upbringing and how much they play a role in, just leading someone. Can you lean in a little bit there and just give us a little insight on what your thoughts are about just knowing a person's background, knowing their upbringing, and how that affects you leading them?
I think one of the things that I learned early on, even because I actually went through a phase of recovery myself. So I learned that going through a process of recovery, like in order to really help someone, you got to know them first. So understanding the background, like, okay, what type of upbringing you had? Did you have 2 parents? Was you raised by your mom, or was you homeless, or things like that? It helps you get a better understanding of this person's, like who they are. And so when you know those things, you approach the situation differently. Like, oh man, this person may be carrying a lot of hurt.
True.
From a lot of abandonment. They may have abandonment issues. They may not understand what having 2 parents look like, if they mother raised them or just their father raised them, and things like that. So I think that when leading people, understanding their background and where they come from, I think that helps to identify the type of individual that you're dealing with. Many times you can approach a situation thinking that all people are the same, but everybody's background is different. This person may have had 2 parents, but the 2 parents was always absent, where he was left to himself or she was left to herself to figure things out for themselves. Or there's other households where they had one mom and she just worked hard and she did what she could. Or some didn't have neither parent. Like myself, I grew up with, I was raised by my grandmother, and my grandmother instilled a lot of principles in our household of what we, like upbringing and stuff like that. So I think once you understand a person's background, where they come from, things that they've have witnessed in their life, I think it helps to be able to lead them better.
Yeah, that's so good, Timothy, what you're saying, because as we take notes here, what I'm noting is that every person that you lead is not a one size fit all.
No, not at all.
Yeah, one size fits all. I mean, and so what we get we run into a jam is when we think that what principle applied last time will apply this time.
Right.
With leading this person. Or it could be the same person and you're trying to apply a principle from years ago and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think that situational thing, well, the situational leadership is the best principle because I think even if it's something that happened the last time, you can't apply that in this situation, because it may not be the same or it may not even be received well in this aspect. And so I think that situational leadership is something that's important with dealing with people because, or in different situations, because you got to be open and to be led. You can't just to think that it becomes stale and stagnant if you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again in every situation with every person. It's like, nah, it got to be original. And people can sense. I've noticed that people can sense when you're being like robotic with them.
Yeah, people can lean really into authenticity.
Yeah.
Authenticity really is something people can lean into and they can feel it.
Yeah.
Not only do you telling them something and they know it, and not only have you told them and they know it, but authenticity makes them feel it. They can feel. They can feel the love. They can feel the sincerity. They can feel that you're really in it, man.
Yeah, it's something about being in that moment. Being in the moment with that person. And even if you apply that same principle that you did the last time in a different situation, because you're in that moment with them, it makes all the more difference.
Okay, I'm gonna go rapid fire, just some crazy questions, just some things that I'm just gonna ask just off the top of my head. Hopefully you're okay with it, and hopefully if I know my audience that they'll be okay with this as well. Okay, Tupac or Biggie?
Tupac.
Okay, all right. T.I. or Bun B?
Bun B.
Okay, all right. Movie theater or Netflix?
Movie theater.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? I never would have thought that. Wow. Okay. All right. Date night with the kids or date night with the kids and the spouse?
Date night with the kids and the spouse.
Okay, you better say it. If your wife Lisa, she hears that, she would definitely get you on that one. Okay, that was smart. That was smart. All right, a regular paper book or audio book?
That's a doozy right there. Because I like to listen to audiobooks on the road or when I'm traveling and moving around. But I do like to sit down and read a good book. So I can't say, I gotta go with both on that one.
You know what? It would be tough for me too because I like a paperback. Like typically in the morning or something I'm reading, I want it in my hand. Yeah. Or if I go out on a vacation, I want it in my hand where I can just wake up and even before I go to sleep or something, I have something to read by my bedstand. But when I'm working out, I want to listen. When I'm riding, I want to listen. So we're similar on that one. Okay, cool.
I like the balance of both is good because I like at night. I have my wife. She actually said, Lisa. She said, "You got all those books by the bed. You can't read all those books at one time." But it's like I know where I'm going with this. They in line for a reason. So just being, and then on vacations, like having a book in my hand, like I like to go outside like early in the morning, smelling the morning air and just, embracing the environment and diving right into a book. But like on the go, even sometimes, I know sometimes if somebody rides with me, it could be a little awkward, but if I'm listening to something, I'm getting really involved in it, I have to they got to bear with me. I'm trying to, really get it in. So I think, it's a balance of both.
So good. Okay. All right. So what's one of the most difficult leadership positions or placements you've been in? I know you've had a lot because I've had front row seat to watch you persevere and have persistence. But something that comes off the top of your mind, one of the toughest situations you've been in as a leader?
Leading families through funerals. Like when there's a death in the family, I've had an opportunity to be there for a few families in a tough time. And it's not one of those things where you know everything to say or have the right thing to say. But I think just being present in the moment with them and even being able to understand where they're coming from, because our death is not the same, but I mean, death is death. So if you've experienced any type of death in your life, then you can kind of be able to navigate with this family and know what they're experiencing. So I think that was one of the difficult things. My first time doing a funeral, I was like, what am I saying? What am I supposed to do? And I had to ask the Holy Spirit, of course, to help me to be able to accommodate this family in this moment with where they were. And it turned out pretty well. Everyone walked away smiling, which was a first. I never experienced something like that. But it just showed me that, you know, when being in a moment with people and allowing yourself to be open to being led by the Spirit, because, I mean, that's a delicate situation. You don't want to say the wrong thing, then you got the whole family in the uproar. They're all upset, and they like, you're the bad guy, you know?
Yeah.
Nah, so I think that was one of the most difficult things that I had to lead, but relying on the Holy Spirit and really understanding the situation at hand and kind of understanding death, being able, just knowing that I've experienced death, so kind of catering to that moment with that individual, with those family members. So.
Yeah, that sounds tough. I've been in that situation before. That is a very, very, very tough situation to lead through. I'm pretty sure that the families that you led through that are so happy you were there.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can't even remember what you said, but they know you were there.
Yeah, for sure.
They know you were there.
Sure.
Wow. So right now, what is the most difficult person or the difficult group it is for you to lead?
Right now, I would say it's people in recovery, getting them to see that, man, because, you know, you have people that are set in their ways, and there's different age groups, and so it's kind of difficult, but you just having to adjust and accommodate people to where they at. You know, Paul said it in the Bible. He was like, for all people I become all things. So I think just learning to adjust on the fly and accommodating people, but it can be sticky. It's difficult. People's attitudes are a trip, and then you having to have patience within yourself, self-control, and, you know, not blowing it, because at the end of the day, it's still a life at stake. You want to help them, you want to lead them, and so I think what matters most is understanding where you're trying to get them to go, and having self-control yourself, and being patient and understanding that, you know, it may take longer than what you expected to.
Wow, and what I'm hearing you say is something I've heard a lot of people say, that the most difficult person to lead is yourself.
Yeah.
Because, like, in order to help them out of recovery.
Sure.
Well, wow. So give me a leadership quote or a leadership principle that you live by day in and day out. It's something that you just hold on to. It anchors your life. It anchors your marriage, your fathering. Give me a principle that you hold on to still to this day, and you've been holding on to it for quite some time.
One of the leadership principles that I hold on to, it will have to be something that D.L. Moody said. He said, God uses the non-intellectual things.
Wow.
And so it reminds me that the people that you at least expect that God can use, he wants to use. And so with that being said, it's like coming with an aspect with people. God want to use everybody. Matter of fact, he can take a nobody and make him a somebody. I was a nobody. I was someone that no one expected to even be doing the things that I'm doing now. So I think understanding that God can use non-intellectual things, man, it helps you in your leadership to be able to understand that this individual, yeah, they may be difficult, yeah, they may come from different backgrounds, but God can still use them.
With you saying that, I just feel led to just go ahead and ask you to give a portion of your story and explain how you became who you are now.
Okay.
And then after that, if you could encourage someone that may be listening. But first, give us a story about how you became who you are now.
Okay.
And then if you could just go into just leading someone, you can look into the camera or whatever and just give someone your story and tell them how you've changed and been transformed. Yeah.
Man, so for about 13 years of my life, man, I was a drug addict. I was affiliated with gangs. In fact, I joined gangs at the age of 12 years old. And I was spiraling to a life of full destruction, man. I really was in a position where I didn't have no direction, no clarity at all. And it was my mom. She told me about a place that I can go to get my life together. And I went, I listened to her, I went, and it was in the recovery center where they introduced me to the person of Jesus Christ. And I had been to church before, I have even read the Bible, but I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. And it was that moment when I really opened up my heart and accepted him into my heart. The person that was speaking that morning, it was an altar call, I'll never forget. And he said, the sooner, it was you. He said, the sooner you become real with God, it's going to become real with you. And
the sooner you become real with God,
he's going to become real.
He's going to become real with you. Wow.
And that was a pivotal moment for me, because I was in my mind and in my heart talking to God in a way that I thought that he wanted me to speak to him. But when you said that, it helped me be very vulnerable and admit that, man, I'm miserable. Man, I don't even know what my next steps are in my life. I was resentful, I was angry at my family. And at that moment, it was like, that was God telling me that I brought you here for a reason. I want to do something in your life that you can't even imagine. And it begins right now. Because I asked God, I said, if you want to use my life, then do it now. Because I know without a shadow of a doubt, if I don't get it now, then I'm only going to go back to the lifestyle that I came from, because that's all I knew. And man, that day was, it was like yesterday. And from that moment on, I was never the same. My eyes was open, I seen life totally different. And if you are like me, lost, broken, weak, man, Jesus wants to use your life. He can use someone just like that. And your weakest, broken moment is when God is the closest to you, and he wants to hear your heart. And all you have to do is open up your heart, ask him to come in, believe by faith that he died on the cross, he was buried in the tomb, and rose on the third day. And from that moment, Jesus can transform your life. And then I would go a step further and say, man, if you're not in a church, man, get involved in your local church. You know, be consistent in going to church, and not only whatever that church offers, man, get involved, because there's life in the community of people. You know, you can find healing. Others, if you have any difficulties, there are people that have probably experienced the same thing, man. And don't be ashamed to be vulnerable and weak with others, because that's where your healing takes place. And so if I had anything to say, first of all, man, accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, and expect the unexpected of what he want to do with your life.
Wow, well, I'm getting chills just speaking about this, just hearing this, you speak, and having this conversation with you. It really gives me chills, even though I know it, you know, because I got up close personal opportunity to see the journey. But thank you so much, Timothy Jones, for joining me today. I'm so happy that we had an opportunity to communicate today. If you are listening to this message, this podcast, make sure that you rate, review, share it, because I'm telling you, it's something about leadership. You want to get leadership skills. Others need to have leadership skills. Thank you for following us on Leading Through with Billy Island. God bless you, and you have a great day.